Hello again and welcome to Money Matters. Depending on what sector you are looking at, the Hong Kong market is either wallowing in a bear market or surging into recovery after Beijing announced a package of market support measures. We invited two stock pickers to sort through the investment maelstrom and pick some winners as they go head to head.
The last time Daniel So and Patrick Yu had a chance to pick some stocks, the market had sunk into bear market territory. So we invited them to return for a rematch. Daniel's first pick this time is technology giant Tencent, stock code 700, which has seen some massive volatility of late. Tencent dropped after the crackdown on the China tech sector, but in the first half of November, saw an amazing surge of buying when Beijing began to signal the screws had been loosened. It was allowed to release its first game in 18 months, and earnings are back on track.
It has recently announced its third quarter's earnings, which was higher than market's expectation. Its quarterly earnings grew 1.6% year-over-year after 4 consecutive quarters of decline, and its earnings was about 7% higher than market consensus. And we expect its fourth quarter earnings would be even better and have over 20% growth year-over-year.
The advances come after the company got its costs under better control, and there was also a significant recovery in its advertising business. Daniel says the distribution of the shares it owns in online delivery service Meituan as an interim dividend will also enhance investors' view of the company.
I think it would help Tencent to unlock its value in its equity investments and also help it mitigate any policy risk on the anti-monopoly policy because after dumping these kind of peers equity investments, the risk of being a monopoly will become lower.
Tencent and other tech blue chips like Alibaba have been through the regulatory ringer that has sapped positive sentiment in the sector. Daniel says that remains the main risk to the company.
There may be further volatility ahead if the U.S. regulators deem the Chinese stocks listed in the U.S. still face some delisting risk. And Tencent, although not directly involved, but its sentiments may be affected by the whole sector.
Daniel sets a target price of $320 and a stop loss of $255. Daniel chooses stalwart CK Infrastructure as his second pick, stock code 1038.
It is operating a very well-diversified business, utility business in the global market, including electricity, water, gas, etc., and with very diversified geographically, such as in the UK and other European countries, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and also in Hong Kong and mainland China.
In the last 10 years,
the company's share price has seen a large drop year to date, mainly due to rising interest rates in the U.S. Stable, high-yielding stocks like CKI usually weaken with higher rates. But Daniel says jump into the shares now while they're lower.
But now that the market is expecting the U.S. yield may be peaking out soon, so it helps valuation of these kind of high-yield stocks.
in recent years,
the company has a very solid record of paying dividends, currently around 7%. The company's main risk is the volatility in global currencies, where it currently has operations. Daniel's target price is $45, and the stop loss is $34. Joining us for the rematch is Patrick Yu, whose first pick is the largest knitwear maker in China, Shenzhou International, stock code 2313. The company listed in Hong Kong in 2005, but it's been making knitwear for famous brands for much longer. Patrick says the company results have been not so good lately, mainly because clients have placed fewer orders while they clear out inventory.
But I think that some of the inventory clearance has already finished this year. and therefore maybe they would like to place the order again next year. So I think that next year we'll have a great rebound on earnings due to the orders recovery in 2023.
Patrick says the company's PE ratio of 20 times is well within expectations for such a competitive company. He says being a consumer counter, the company is vulnerable to economic shocks.
I think the main risk is if the global economy is still have maybe worsening, because due to the U.S. economy is suffered by the drop of the housing price or something else, and then it may affect the consuming power of the people.
And that could impact Shenzhou's customers. Patrick sets a target price of $85 and a stop loss of 63. Patrick's second choice is WuXi Bio, stock code 2269, a pharmaceutical firm engaged in research and development of biologics services. It is mainly known for being a contract research organization, working with other drug companies developing new products, but it suffered scrutiny by U.S. regulators. Its place on the Commerce Department's unverified list could soon be reversed, giving the company the chance to resume work, permit-free, with American clients, which have made up more than half the company's turnover.
And also around 13 projects will be going into the commercial situation, and that will have to generate a huge amount of the profit, because it does not only receive the research fee for the companies, it can also share the revenue from the drugs received. So this is a very, very great point for this company.
Patrick's target price is $65, with a stop loss of 47. Looking ahead at the end of the second half, Patrick expects global inflation will remain beyond investor expectations, and that will affect the performance of local stocks. He says investors are being lured away from the value of shares into solid-yielding bonds.
And in Hong Kong, I think that it still has another issue, that is the closure due to the COVID-19 in China. And so you can see why the Hang Seng Index touched the base at around 14,600. And this may be another issue that the foreign investors worrying that the Chinese economy will continue to go at a slow pace, and also the earnings growth will be going negative in the first half of 2023.
These issues, among many others, will prevent the local share market from emerging from its bear market by the end of the year, finishing with a 15% loss for 2022. U.S. bank Citigroup has turned bullish on Chinese stocks, upgrading Hong Kong to overweight in Asia. The bank says Beijing's pivot on COVID-0 and the property sector should lift earnings. It says even with recent outbreaks in Beijing and Guangzhou testing policymakers' resolve, a reopening should help stabilize the current EPS downturn. Analysts say China could still offer an attractive domestic-driven recovery story, even as other major economies are slowing. While the 12-month forward earnings estimate for the MSCI China Index languishes close to 17-year lows, global investors have recently turned bullish after the shift away from draconian COVID restrictions and rigid property policies. Chinese property stocks saw a renewed round of selling after rising COVID infections in Guangzhou and Beijing spooked investors worried there would be a wider lockdown. Beijing announced one death, the first COVID fatality since the end of May. China's total import and export volume reached record highs in the first 10 months of 2022. During the January-October period, China's trade surplus in goods reached $727 billion, a significant increase of 43.8% year-on-year. The result follows an unexpected drop in exports and imports in the October period as COVID curbs hit into trade. Shipments contracted 0.3%, the worst since May 2020, and against forecasts for over 4% growth. Recession fears overseas also darken the outlook for the rest of the year. To boost shipping capacity and foreign trade volume, China's major coastal ports have opened more than 100 new international shipping routes this year. In November, Xiamen Port opened its 19th and 20th new international container route to Southeast Asia, including Indonesia, Vietnam, and Thailand.
Up next, how Hong Kong's movie industry may come out of the pandemic with renewed strength. Stay with us. Welcome back to Money Matters. Hong Kong movies used to earn both regional and global praise, and sometimes the box office returns were great. But in the past 20 years, the shimmering flicker of local movie making has dimmed. Recently, movie makers have received some positive attention and healthy ticket sales.
Director and writer Sunny Chan has been running around town visiting different cinemas to promote his film, which opened in theaters a month ago.
其實見到觀眾係好開心嘅，坦白講，因為
I feel happy when I see the audience, maybe because this is a comedy. People are laughing. It's heartwarming. People's reaction and the exchange with me was really good. Not many people go to cinemas now, but thank those friends who still visit cinemas and support us.
坦白嘅，有時覺得觀眾睇完套戲同我講。
Frankly, when the audience thanked me after, I was a bit embarrassed and also moved.
覺得好感動，因為
I'm making money from you, but you thank me. It's a little awkward.
Sunny had reservations about making any money at first. That's because cinemas had to shut down for more than 100 days earlier this year during the pandemic. So the release of his film was pushed back by 6 months.
初期喺
A Lunar New Year film not shown during the festive holiday, I had worried about the box office. Lunar New Year is after all a peak holiday season. I thought if the movie had to be screened in another period, we would see a drop in ticket sales of $10 million.
In the end, his film did miss the holiday rush, so he released it during the Mid-Autumn Festival. In 2 weeks, the movie earned $70 million, making it the most successful comedy film ever made in Hong Kong.
香港嘅電影最需要嘅就係香港觀眾嘅支持。
Entirely produced and filmed in Hong Kong. The movie played with a lot of local Cantonese jokes and dialogue. Sunny calls it a mainstream movie targeting mostly local people.
廣東話嘅喜劇我
Cantonese comedy can be successful as long as we can control the budget.
睇得好啲。其實香港人對
Many moviegoers demand Hong Kong comedy that always existed.
不過係坦白講係需要越嚟越高質素，越嚟越。
But we require even higher quality and even more surprise scripts because we've done a lot of these in the past 20 to 30 years.
Over the past 20 to 30 years, during the golden era of Hong Kong cinema, the industry churned out some 200 to 300 films a year. In 1995 alone, at least 4 movies managed to collect $30 million at the box office. This would not be repeated for another 27 years, until Sunny's film earned its box office bonanza. Though ticket prices have doubled, many see the result as a revival of sorts for local film.
今年係特別好，因為一嚟就有3部。
This year is particularly good. 3 films made 30 million or more, 2 of them over 70 million.
真係好好嘅，因為你用翻過去嘅數字嚟睇咧，對上一次能夠1年。
These are great numbers because the last time you saw these numbers with 2 films making 30 million was in 2015.
Cinema operator Lau Siuman says a take of $30 million has always been a benchmark when it comes to movies shown during Lunar New Year holiday. With a recent better-than-expected showing, she says Hong Kong moviegoers are taking notice of local films again.
尤其是喺5、6年咧，有好多新進嘅導演啦，都會拍一啲你哋所講話小本。
The past 5 to 6 years, there have been new directors making small-budget local films. The quality is up to par. They've gained the audience's confidence in Hong Kong films. They made only a few $1 million, maybe just a few $100,000.
收到幾百萬或者幾廿萬都有嘅。咁但係其實佢嘅 quality 係好好，令到觀眾睇到呢套片嘅時候。
But they're good films. People like them and return to watch local movies in cinemas again.
She says after a long period of anti-pandemic measures, the reopening of movie theaters in April provided an outlet for people who just wanted entertainment.
本來舊年2021年咧，大家已經開始慢慢去翻。
In 2021, people were ready to get back to a regular consumption mode.
突然之間就喺年尾1月份開始咧就停咗。
Suddenly, cinemas were shut down in January. This created a pent-up demand for watching movies at the cinema.
而當其時咧，其實好多片已經係喺度宣傳緊呢個賀歲檔噶咯喎。
Promotion of Lunar New Year films had already begun.
諗住去睇賀歲片噶嘛，咁就截住咗。
People were ready to watch. This desire to watch was pushed back to April when cinemas reopened.
Films originally scheduled for release in the Chinese New Year, Easter, and summer holidays were all postponed. The number of releases this year was cut down to about 22, down from the 50 to 60 in a normal year. Lau says this may not be a bad thing.
其實喺賀歲嘅時候咧，其實一般就
During Lunar New Year's, all movies are shown at the same time, so the box office potential is not maximized.
個票房唔可以做到最大化嘅。咁所以咧，佢而家去翻4月份。
When films were pushed back to April, they came out one after another, maximizing the box office.
最大化嗰個票房咯。咁但係而家因為你攤開咗啊嘛，咁你咪可以
There's now a longer period for films to be screened at cinemas, cutting down competition.
According to the Hong Kong Box Office Limited, before 2019, movies made $1.9 billion at the box office. More than 80% of them were foreign films, and less than 20% were Hong Kong productions. As of October this year, that ratio was about 70-30.
咁呢個數字係港產片好咗啊，定係西片差？
Is it because Hong Kong films have improved or that foreign films are worse? I think it's both. Other than Top Gun Maverick, overseas superhero films didn't perform as well as those in 2018 and 2019, like Avengers Endgame.
再加上其實近幾個月咧，亦都冇乜。
And over the past few months, there weren't a lot of large overseas or Hollywood releases. I feel overseas film may catch up in the next few months.
As big Hollywood productions increase the box office at local cinemas in the next few months, Yoon says good quality Hong Kong films with different subjects will remain attractive for local audiences.
唔同嘅觀眾咧，驅使佢哋入場嘅，唔會話一方。
People are now driven to different films, not like crime flicks or comedy in the past.
我哋今次有特技片又有，我哋係有偶像加target。
We have seen films feature stunts, about hot idols, about women, movies for families and also comedies, attractive to different audiences. People won't just watch one movie every 2 to 3 months.
While local films are introducing a larger variety of subjects, many U.S. productions are cutting costs and making smaller films, B and C movies, for online streaming. Yoon says that will actually allow local Hong Kong movies to flourish.
我會認為嚟緊幾年香港引進呢啲 B grade、C grade 嘅一啲嘅西片咧。
I believe Hong Kong will screen fewer of these B and C movies. I hope the recent short-term revival will last in the next 2 years, creating local movies for the different tastes of our viewers.
港產片或者更加啱我哋香港人口味嘅電影，可以喺嚟緊1、2年，可以令到我哋每年我哋戲院去排片嗰個比例。
Tipping the balance between imported and local films from 85% to 15% to 80 to 20% or even 70 to 30%.
The movie industry has always been commercial in Hong Kong. Market watchers say there will be a future for small and medium-sized productions from local producers. Rows of intricately decorated masks line an exhibition table in a hotel hall in Cambodia's capital, Phnom Penh, which just hosted leaders from around the region for the ASEAN Summit. Artist Ta Ming Swan is behind the masks, creations of those worn in Lakhon Ko, a centuries-old tradition of Cambodian masked theater and dance performance. The artist says it is his intention to just show his creations to the leaders of the ASEAN group, not to sell the culture of Cambodia. UNESCO says Lakhon Ko is in urgent need of protection, as practitioners of the performance art has dwindled among younger generations. Ta Ming says the UNESCO decision pushed him to learn how to make the masks and to spread awareness to a larger audience. It also gave him the idea of converting the masks from regular size to a small souvenir size, but to make it nice and lively. He trained with a master at a local art association before feeling he was skilled enough to start selling the masks to private buyers in 2020. The smaller size masks are harder to make, so that out of 100 traditional characters, he only recreates around 25 of them in miniature. The process to make the masks involves forming the structure using molds before being embellished with gold-colored pieces of clay and paint. There has been healthy demand for the masks from both domestic and overseas buyers. He says he wants to encourage young artists to take up the craft so the culture isn't forgotten. This customer says this is the reason she bought her mask, to preserve Khmer tradition and maybe spread it beyond the borders of Cambodia. The centuries-old tradition of masked dance is still struggling to recover. It was nearly wiped out by the Khmer Rouge genocidal rule, when at least 1.7 million people, including artists, dancers, and writers, died. These days, Ta Ming comes to the theater to watch the dance performances in his bid to push the tradition to a wider audience and hopefully spur even greater interest, and maybe sell a few masks.
That's the show. Thanks for watching. Next time on Money Matters, how landlords and owners have reacted to a sharp drop in the property market. Bye for now.